World War II, the Civil Rights Movement, Vietnam-era protests, and other events through the end of the 20th century, and music from classical to jazz, rock, R&B, and more soothe, stir, and challenge three generations of mothers and daughters through changing times in three-part Invention, a novel by Judith Laura. Here's how the youngest daughter, Alexis, also called Allie, begins the story. When I play keyboards in the rock jazz fusion bands, I go by the name Wind. Ben gave me that name. I could have made it fancier by using another word with wind like windstorm or soft wind or wild wind, but I wanted to just be wind that could sometimes blow one way, sometimes another. When I perform classical piano, I go by the name my parents gave me after both my grandmothers. I like being connected to my grandmothers that way. I feel especially close to my mother's mother, who was a pianist. I never met her, but I know a lot about her. I suppose some of it's from what my mother told me, but I don't think she told me all I seem to know. I could say I found a diary that my mother wrote, but my mother is an artist and she doesn't do diaries. And I could say I found letters from my grandmother, but Ma says Grandma hardly ever wrote letters. I know this is harder to believe than diaries or letters, but what's the point if I don't tell the truth? So here it is. The rest of what I know comes from what I feel flow through me when I'm playing music, like when I'm practicing the piano, not when I'm performing at a concert because then I'm too nervous. But I get lots of stuff when I'm at the keyboards with a band, when we're just riffing for ourselves. For example, the way my grandparents met. My mother told me that story so many times, I feel like I was there. Between the Brahms and the Beethoven, he asked her to marry him, and she said yes. Taking a break from their music making, Alice had gotten up from the piano and gone into the kitchen to get some tea. Her parents sat at the kitchen table, Papa reading the Yiddish newspaper and shaking his head over what was brewing in Germany with Adolf Hitler. When Alice started fussing with the teapot, Mama said in her thick Polish-Jewish accent, "Kindela, let me do that. You go back with Isidore." At the stove she shooed Alice away. Izzy, in the meantime, had begun going over a part in the music he had found difficult when they were playing together. Alice knew he wasn't aware of her as she stood in the darkened vestibule, thinking how handsome Izzy looked as he lunged into the piece, his bowing arm moving rapidly and strongly back and forth across the strings of the violin, sweat beading his forehead and glistening above his mustache. Then he stopped, shaking his head in a familiar gesture that meant he had become impatient with his own inability to get a passage right. "Mama will bring the tea in a minute," Alice said, emerging from the shadows. "I'm tired of the Brahms for tonight. Why don't we do the Beethoven?" She changed the music on the piano music holder and sat down next to him. "We play good music," he said. "I don't know. Sometimes you get so impatient with me, with yourself even." "So, I'm impatient. That's just how I am. That doesn't mean I'm angry with you. It's just that I know how it should sound, and sometimes we fall short." They laughed together, and he took her hand. "Alice, I like it when we're together." And then she knew he was about to say it, although exactly how she knew she couldn't explain, except maybe that his hand was trembling a little. "Alice, I think we're so good together, we should be together permanently." She said nothing. Was he proposing a professional alliance or something else? Alice could hear Mama rattling the tea things in the kitchen. "Not now, Mama," she thought. How does Beth, Ollie's mother and Alice's daughter, view her life and loves? Find out in this popular novel as you experience their frustrations and achievements.